Hey, what's up, Good Life? Thanks for joining me for today's 128 moment. Can you believe it's July already? Simultaneously, it kind of has this, how is it July already? This year's flying by. But then on the other hand, it's sort of, how is this only July in this never-ending year? Either way, hopefully you can join us on this first Sunday in July, whether it's online or in person. We look forward to seeing you. And if you're coming in person, don't forget to reserve a seat. For today's 128 moment, I want to tell you about a guy by the name of Philip. He was one of the deacons we met earlier in Acts, and after Stephen's execution, Philip and most of the rest of the church in Jerusalem, they're driven out of the city by intense persecution. But this ordinary guy didn't let these extremely painful circumstances distract him from his mission. In Acts chapter 8, it tells us that Philip landed in Samaria, where he began sharing the good news of Jesus with the people there. Many of those Samaritans, they believed. And it says that the city was filled with great joy. But then an angel comes to Philip and tells him to go and stand by a road in the middle of the desert. Angel didn't say why. But the very next verse is clear. Philip gets up and he goes. His yes was on the table before the command was even given. So when he reached the middle of nowhere, he just stood there and he waited. And sure enough, rolling by was an official from the court of the Queen of Ethiopia. He's a man who'd been to Jerusalem to worship at the temple there. And as he was traveling home, he's riding in the chariot and reading a scroll from the book of Isaiah. And the Holy Spirit prompted Philip to run alongside the chariot to talk to the man, so Philip did. And he asked the Ethiopian man if he understood what he was reading. And the man said, "How can I if no one explains it to me?" And so on this desert road, Philip walked through the Old Testament telling this man about Jesus. And when he was done, the man believed and the man was saved. And they came upon a small body of water and the man said, "What prevents me from being baptized?" And right then and there they stopped. Philip was baptized and his new Ethiopian brother marked his public declaration that he was a follower of Jesus Christ. When they came out of the water, the Holy Spirit miraculously whisked Philip away. But the Ethiopian man, he returned to his homeland, undoubtedly carrying the good news of Jesus with him. So there's three things that I want you and I to take away from this story. Number one, Philip was able to hear. He knew the voice of God. And when he heard it, number two, he was willing to go. His yes was on the table. And number three, Philip was ready to share. How did this against all odds effort to change the world, how did it end up succeeding? Well, God didn't let his mission fail. But the people of God were working in the power of God. And on a very practical day-to-day level, the people were doing what Jesus told them to do. They were giving up everything to fulfill the Great Commission. And that's what Jesus asks us to do as well. And in order for us to do that, we need to do what Philip did. We need to be able to hear, so we're able to obey. We need to be willing to go when he says to go. And we need to be ready to share whenever an opportunity arises. Good Life, there are 500,000 people in our two-county area that are not connected to a local church or walking with Jesus. And we're here to reach them. God may not have us stand by a desert road, and he may not speak to us in a voice that's so audible and clear as it seems to have been to Philip. But regardless, as we go about our daily lives, you and I are rubbing elbows with people who need to hear about Jesus. We have been entrusted with the best news the world has ever heard. Good Life, are you able to hear the voice of God when he tells you to step out and share? Are you willing to do that? Is your yes on the table? And are you ready to share the good news? Do you know what Jesus has done for you? And are you ready to share that story with a lost world? I love you guys. I hope that encourages you and challenges you today. And we'll see you Friday at 128.